Another Kiowa grade school fall semester commencing. Pam Cooper, Gary's custodial co-worker, having a work-related adversity. Pam once again complaining about her difficulty utilizing the backpack vacuum on the carpet installed the previous year in the 1st through 3rd grade classrooms. Deciding to use a floor push vacuum sweeper and having to move the desk to accommodate deployment. The floor sweeper, a remnant from the past, Gary using it daily for the downstairs library and Sally Forrester's kindergarten room. Mrs. Forrester's room having been the only prior carpeted room in the building with the exception of the office and library. Gary suggesting Pam approach Juanita Smith, the grade school principal, about requesting a new floor vacuum sweeper. Explaining the difficulties with the backpack and mention the age of the floor sweeper. Pam's rapport with the principal was questionable at best. Previously having been discovered making direct undisclosed out-of-state long-distance calls at 6 a.m. on the school's telephone to her ex-husband in Michigan, failing to disclose her actions to administration. Gary by happenstance, waiting for his afternoon bus route to commence in school secretary Judy Rocket's office, that adjoined Principal Juanita Smith's. Pam Cooper entering Juanita's office, accosting the principal about acquiring a new floor sweeper for her custodial duties. Juanita was patient, acknowledging her request, but illustrating that all the custodians in the district utilized the more efficient backpack appliance, and it would be questionable if Superintendent Piper would approve the request. Gary and Judy could hear Pam getting belligerent about her discomfort using the backpack, her preference for a floor machines, and in a questioning voice rebuked the principal's logic. Juanita, remaining composed, replying, Pam would have to make do with what she had to work with. In a sudden burst, Pam slammed her school keys on Juanita's desk and exited the building. The principal looked up, noticing that Judy and Gary had witnessed the incident. Gary's first thoughts was of Pam's scheduled bus route. Immediately suggesting to Juanita he would fine and ask Kathy Cox, who was licensed, if she would accommodate Pam's student delivery duty. Gary returning after securing Kathy's availability. Finding Juanita clasping a purse, it was Pam's, who in her haste had left it. Gary offering to return it, knowing that Pam and her boys had moved into an apartment across the street from the school. Crossing south of the school, Gary approached Pam's place of residence, able to see her through the screen door sitting in a rocker, her actions giving concern, rocking back and forth with a look of asperity on her face. Handing her the purse, Gary concurred with her litigation, soliciting her to apologize to Juanita and return to her school duties. But it was to no avail, her temperament still abounding. With Pam's termination, Gary, now the school's solitary custodian, accepting Pam's classroom and cleaning assignments, not a new experience, having accorded the responsibility during her sick day absences. But recognizing the custodial vacancy enunciation as in need of immediate attention, an available person coming to mind. His brother-in-law, Sean Johnson. Sean was currently employed by their father-in-law's business, Murrow Construction. Bud having let some of the family know he wasn't too enthusiastic about hiring Sean, acknowledging the provision until Sean could find other employment. Gary informing the Johnson family of the school custodial vacancy, Sean was very receptive, immediately retaining and submitting an employment application at the school central office. Gary being privileged to a discerning relevance by Superintendent Secretary Wanda Eckert, divulging that Juanita Smith, upon hearing about Sean's application, was detrimental to his employment, questioning his character, having established a reputation during his prior South Barber school years. Gary questioning the reasoning, deciding to talk to Glenn. Approaching the superintendent's office on a deliberate mission to affirm Sean's qualifications. Glenn acknowledging Gary's approbation for his brother-in-law's employment and mentioned that he respected Gary's advocacy. The conversation turning, the superintendent directing a response from Gary with a question. If Sean was hired, he wanted assurance that Gary would administer a degree of awareness to Sean's propriety. Gary understanding the reality of what was not being said, in other words, keep an eye on him. Gary, for the first time in 5 years of maintaining 2/3 of the custodial assignments for the school, finding relief with the accession of Sean. Some of the workload responsibility being lifted. Gary no longer singularly responsible for the two most time-consuming projects, the mowing, and the never-accomplished continuous floor maintenance of the gym. Sean volunteering to dust mop the gym floor before, during and after school. Gary still involved with the care of the stage, dressing rooms, and bleachers. The school year continuing, Gary maintaining his 12-hour schedule, arriving and unlocking the gate to the fenced high school bus security area at 5 a.m. Sean arriving about the same time, their schedule coinciding at the beginning of the day, but differing in the afternoon. Gary accomplishing an hour for lunch at home, working till 6 p.m. Sean taking a 30-minute lunch and finishing his day at 5:30. It wasn't long, coming to the conclusion, his brother-in-law's perspective of the school was just that, a school, nothing more, nothing less. Gary feeling different, having stood in the darkened school hallway before sunrise, the surroundings casting an echoing silence, its 50 years' presence giving voice to the embroilment of a learning citadel, soon to come to life with the bustle and vibrant pectation of young students and the caring natured atmosphere radiating from educators in the classroom. Sean was a definite asset, but Gary having a sense that Sean's school employment would not be one of longevity.